Have you ever noticed that the more we try to understand the universe, the stranger it becomes? We think in terms of edges, limits, and centers. But none of that exists out there. Space expands without needing an outside, without a fixed beginning, without a final destination. It feels almost like an insult to logic, which is why so many get lost asking the wrong question. The universe doesn't fit into the mold of our intuition. It shatters the mold entirely. The greatest illusion is believing we see everything when we look up at the starry sky. In truth, we only glimpse a fraction, like peeking at the world through a keyhole. The rest, 95% of it, remains invisible, hidden in dark matter and dark energy. It's a reality that governs everything, yet one we can't touch or directly measure. And that's the paradox. We live inside something we barely understand. But the most fascinating part is how this cosmic strangeness speaks directly to us. Who hasn't felt lost, as if there were a void just beyond what they can see? The universe teaches us that emptiness also creates, that absence itself is a force. And once we grasp that, we stop searching for obvious answers and begin to craft new questions. That's when the true reward begins, realizing we are active participants in this mystery. It's curious to think that the universe is expanding, yet not expanding into anything. The mind immediately tries to picture walls, limits, or even a void waiting to be filled, but that image doesn't match the reality science so clearly describes. The balloon analogy helps. As it inflates, the surface grows, yet there is no outside. There is only the surface itself in motion, revealing new spaces as it stretches. The cosmos works the same way. It doesn't need a container. It is its own stage. This absence of a frame forces us to break free from habitual intuition. It's like walking without a path, each step creating the road in that very moment. The universe doesn't rely on external support to exist or to continue. It is the very structure where everything happens, where everything is sustained. Strange as it sounds, that notion carries a beauty that defies any limit. Now picture a long journey, so long that you forget where you started. After a while, the starting point loses meaning compared to the journey itself. Space behaves in the same way. It has no edges, it simply keeps expanding. Our minds, trained to expect walls and borders, struggle to accept this. We want to know how far it goes, but in this case, the question doesn't apply. Space isn't contained within anything larger. It exists as the totality itself. It's like a melody born without sheet music, yet sustaining itself in the air. This idea dismantles the linear reasoning that governs human daily life. It shows us that reality doesn't fit into schemes of beginning and end. The universe needs no border. It is both the border and the content, and that completely changes the way we think about existence. Now imagine an open-world video game without invisible walls. You walk, run, explore, and new landscapes keep appearing on the horizon. There is no boundary blocking your way, only more world unfolding. That's how space works, a paradox in constant motion of itself. It expands without an outside, without a fixed destination, only in continuous flow. This idea may unsettle us, for it destroys the notions of center and frontier. At the same time, it inspires awe, the feeling of being part of something vast. The cosmos reveals that we live inside a within that doesn't need a beyond. There is no privileged center, only an infinite, homogeneous expansion. Every region of the universe matters equally, with no absolute point of reference. And it's precisely here that the next revelation arises. There is no center. When we think of something vast, it's natural to imagine a center and a boundary. A soccer field has its lines, a city has its borders, even an ocean has its shores. But the universe doesn't work under that logic, and that's where the human mind stumbles. There is no end of space where you could stretch out your hand and say, "Here, it stops." nor is there a center from which everything spreads outward. Every point in the universe is equally valid, equally part of the expansion. If someone insists on asking, where is the center, the answer is everywhere. It's a counterintuitive concept, but unavoidable when we look at the cosmos. Like a raisin bread rising in the oven, every raisin drifts away from the others. There isn't one privileged raisin in the middle, only a uniform movement. That's what space is, without an edge, without a point that dominates the whole. Now imagine yourself inside an open-world video game, but without invisible walls. You can walk for endless virtual miles, and new landscapes keep appearing. There is no fixed center marking where it all began or where it should all end. What exists is a sense of continuity, as if the game had no limit at all. The universe follows a similar logic, but on a scale beyond measure. There is no master map showing all the edges because they simply don't exist. And the absence of borders reshapes how we understand our place in the cosmos. If there is no center, no one can claim to be closer to the heart of the universe. Everyone holds an equally valid position within the ongoing expansion. This shatters the old idea that Earth could ever be the center of the world. Today we know there is no cosmic throne to crown the heart of everything. This realization carries a philosophical weight we cannot ignore. If there is no center, then there is no special place where meaning concentrates. We humans are not privileged. We are part of a greater dance. It's like being in a theater performance where everyone is an actor at once. There is no audience watching from outside, only participants within the scene. And this reminds us of something essential. The universe is more democratic than it seems. Every star, planet, and galaxy drifts away from the others in the same flow. And this absence of a center shifts the focus onto something deeper, the fabric itself. Because if there are no borders and no center, what holds it all together is space-time, and it is precisely there that the secret lies, how gravity shapes reality. That is the next step we must grasp in order to continue the journey. Einstein revolutionized our vision by showing that space is not an empty stage. It is malleable, able to bend in the presence of mass and energy. Gravity, once seen as an invisible force, became the curvature of space-time. Picture a stretched sheet held tight at the edges, representing the fabric of the cosmos. Place a heavy ball in the center, and the sheet curves around it. Any smaller object rolling nearby will be drawn into that deformation. This is the simplest way to understand what keeps planets orbiting stars. It isn't a string pulling, nor a magical force tugging downward. It is space itself folding, guiding motion without direct effort. That discovery forever changed physics and the way we see the universe. Suddenly, space and time stopped being absolutes, merging into a single entity. Now think about how this shows up in simple everyday experiences. When you and friends hold a sheet and drop objects onto it, you see curves. Each weight alters the fabric, shifting how the others move. In the same way, a massive star distorts the space-time around it. This explains not only orbits, but also phenomena like gravitational lenses. Light from a distant galaxy can be bent, creating mirrored or multiplied images. It's as if space were elastic, redirecting even the path of light itself. This idea unsettles and fascinates, for it shows that even time can bend. If space and time are the same, both warp together. Near black holes, that curvature reaches unimaginable extremes. Time there slows to such a crawl that it defies human intuition. This vision also sparks philosophical reflections beyond physics. If time is relative, then our experience is not universal. An astronaut traveling near the speed of light would age more slowly. Meanwhile, someone on Earth would live through years without noticing a difference. That is the reality of space-time, flexible, adaptable, shaped by motion. There is no cosmic clock dictating the rhythm for all. Each observer lives time according to their own trajectory. This reshapes the way we even face our daily choices. The time we feel is not the same in every circumstance, and that realization forces us to confront the limits of what we can observe. Because if space and time bend, they also conceal parts of the universe. When we look up at the night sky, it feels as though we're seeing everything that exists, but in truth, we're only reaching a tiny fraction of the real universe. Light has a limited speed and needs time to travel before it reaches us. That means when we observe distant stars, we're seeing their past. A galaxy billions of light years away shows us its ancient image, not its present one. There is a boundary called the cosmic horizon that defines how far we can see. Beyond that horizon lie regions that will never send us light. It's as if the cosmos were veiled, hiding endless parts from our view. They're not non-existent. They're simply inaccessible to us. Our observable universe is just a window into something much larger. And that gives the feeling of being in a room lit only by partial light. Now imagine walking through a city at night, illuminated only by street lamps. You can see clearly where the light falls, but nothing beyond that. Even though you know there are streets, houses, and people hidden in the dark, the observable universe works exactly the same way with cosmic light. We can only see what radiation has had enough time to reach us. This doesn't just limit our sight, it limits our understanding too. Perhaps immense forces and vast structures lie beyond, unseen and concealed. Like travelers in the night, we explore one part while the rest stays hidden. This analogy reminds us how small we are before such immensity. Yet it also sparks curiosity. What could exist beyond the light? That question opens the door to imagining the absolute unknown. This frontier of the observable stirs science, philosophy, and spirituality alike. If we cannot reach beyond the light, then we live inside a bubble, a cosmic bubble that expands, yet always has a visual boundary. And it's intriguing to think there may be billions of such private universes. Every vantage point in every galaxy has its own horizon. There is no single vision, but infinite possible windows of perception. This makes the universe feel even more democratic and more mysterious. It also humbles us, forcing us to face our limits as a thinking species. After all, if we see so little, how much do we truly know of reality? That boundary is not an end, but an invitation to imagination. And imagination leads us to ask, what lies beyond the observable? If there's a limit to what we can see, what lies beyond it? The most honest answer is simple. We don't know, and perhaps we never will. That's because the light from those regions will never have enough time to reach us. Even so, science suggests the universe continues far past the visible edge. There is no reason to think it simply ends at the cosmic horizon. It would be like driving at night and believing the road ends at the reach of your headlights. What we face is a limit of vision, not a limit of reality itself. Beyond what we see, there may be billions of galaxies undetected, perhaps even cosmic structures larger than anything ever imagined. The unknown becomes, therefore, an open field for bold hypotheses. And it is precisely this mystery that keeps the human quest alive. Now think of traveling on an airplane on a cloudy day, looking out the window. All you see are endless white clouds stretching in every direction. You know rationally that land, oceans, and cities lie beneath them, but none of it is visible, and the horizon seems infinite and uniform. That feeling comes close to what we experience with the universe beyond the light. We know something exists, but our sight will never be enough to reach it. This forces us to rely on models, calculations, and scientific theories. Just as the pilot trusts the instruments when the ground can't be seen. That personal experience mirrors the limits of our own perception. We don't see everything, but we know much more is hidden, and that more intrigues us, like a permanent invitation to explore. But what might be hidden in those unreachable regions of space? Some scientists believe the same physical laws extend beyond the light. Others suggest radically different structures may be out there. It's even possible that new forms of matter lie beyond our detection. Either way, every hypothesis reminds us how little we truly know of reality. And it is in this unknown that the deepest human curiosity flourishes. After all, what is it to be human, if not to seek answers to impossible questions? Even if the horizon blocks us, we continue to ask anyway. And that very impulse already leads us to the most provocative question of all. Could there have been something before the very beginning of space and time? That is the question that takes us directly to the next step. The human mind loves to ask, what came before, about everything. But when it comes to the Big Bang, that question loses all meaning. That's because space and time were born together in the universe's first instant. Before the Big Bang, there simply was no before to be counted. It's like asking what morning came before the first day on the calendar. The logic of time only begins to exist from that inaugural moment onward. Einstein showed us that time and space are inseparable, a single reality. And if space emerged with the Big Bang, then the clock began ticking there too. There were no hands moving forward, no stage waiting for events to unfold. There was only raw potential about to transform into everything. That is the great challenge, accepting that before has no meaning at all. Think of trying to ask what time it was before clocks were invented. Without a clock, the very idea of an hour cannot even be formed. In the same way, without space-time, talk of a past makes no sense. The Big Bang did not explode inside some pre-existing void. It created the very stage, the time, and the rules of the cosmic game. This is one of the most counterintuitive ideas in modern physics, and precisely because of that, it provokes both wonder and discomfort. We are used to imagining that everything has an earlier origin. But here, the origin coincides with the very creation of when and where. Science invites us to change the way we frame the question, and to accept that some doubts arise only from using the wrong logic. This line of reasoning opens reflections that go beyond physics itself. If time was born alongside space, the universe needed no prior setting. It began as a spark of existence, without external support. And that raises a profound philosophical point. A beginning needs no before. It's like a work of art that appears fully formed in the artist's mind. It doesn't matter if there was a blank canvas before. What matters is the creation. That is the paradox of the Big Bang, still puzzling scientists and thinkers. We no longer search for the before, but for the how and the why of origin. And it is in this space of mystery that the boldest hypotheses arise. Theories that attempt to expand our vision beyond a single beginning. And it is here that we step into the idea of multiverse and extra dimensions. When science reaches the limits of the observable, bold hypotheses emerge. One of the most fascinating is the idea that our universe is not unique. There could exist an infinite set of universes, each with its own laws. This concept is called the multiverse, and it divides scientists. Some see it as an elegant explanation for cosmic mysteries. Others criticize it for being nearly impossible to prove directly. Yet imagining parallel universes still expands our vision. It's as if we were a bubble floating in a vast ocean. Each bubble would be a universe with its own conditions and histories. Perhaps even different versions of ourselves exist in those parallel realities. This hypothesis shows how fertile the unknown can be for new ideas. Now, think of the important decisions you've made in life. Choosing a career, moving to a new city, ending a relationship. Each choice creates one path, but you always imagine the others. What if I had chosen differently? Where would I be now? The multiverse takes that imagination to another level. Maybe that other you exists. A version of you who took another job or loved another person living right now. This analogy helps us grasp the impact of the concept on our minds. It's not just physics, it's also philosophy about destiny and possibility. The idea of multiple paths has always fascinated humanity, and science, by suggesting parallel universes, taps into that same curiosity. It invites us to reflect on how we perceive our own lives. Beyond the multiverse, there are theories about extra invisible dimensions. We live in 3 spatial dimensions and 1 temporal, but perhaps there are more. Dimensions folded upon themselves, too small for us to perceive. They might explain hidden forces we don't yet understand, like vibrating strings across multiple dimensions, sustaining all of reality. These hypotheses arise from attempts to unify quantum physics and relativity. And even without direct evidence, they fuel the pursuit of knowledge. It's like suspecting there are secret rooms in a familiar house. You don't see them, but clues suggest they're there, concealed, and if invisible dimensions exist, they may hold decisive answers, even about what drives the mysterious acceleration of the cosmos. As if the universe weren't mysterious enough, most of it is invisible. About 95% of the cosmos is made of something we cannot observe. We call it dark matter and dark energy, 2 great enigmas. Dark matter doesn't emit light, yet it reveals itself through gravity. It's like a shadow we never see, but whose weight we can feel. Without it, galaxies would simply fly apart as they spin. It's as if invisible screws held the stars together in space. Scientists can only detect it through the effects it produces. It reminds us that not everything essential can be seen with the eyes. Thus, dark matter remains the unseen guardian of the universe, and every clue about it reveals how little we truly know. Dark energy, however, is even more intriguing and more unsettling. It seems to act as a force opposing gravity. Instead of holding the universe together, it accelerates its expansion. It's like pushing a door, only to discover it keeps opening on its own. Even with no more effort applied, the door swings wider and faster. This unknown energy is everywhere, yet we cannot detect it directly. It works silently, stretching space like an endless elastic band. What once seemed stable now reveals itself as an accelerating process, and that acceleration raises profound questions about the future of the cosmos. Will everything expand into a cold, endless void, or will a new phase emerge, one we cannot yet imagine? To think about dark matter and dark energy is to confront our ignorance. They remind us that we only understand about 5% of the universe. The rest is hidden beneath a veil of unanswered questions. Yet it is precisely this unknown that drives science forward. After all, every enigma is also an invitation to dig deeper. If we don't know what dominates the cosmos, then we still have much to discover. This casts humanity as an apprentice standing before immensity, and it reminds us that humility is essential in the search for answers, because each discovery opens new doors to even greater mysteries. And the greatest one remains: how do we apply this knowledge to our own lives? Here lies the conclusion, a call for each of us to reflect and act. The universe is not just a distant landscape to admire, it's a mirror. Every cosmic paradox reminds us that we too live surrounded by mysteries. Just like space, our lives have no fixed borders, only continuous expansion. And what we do with the space that opens with every decision is what shapes our destiny. The question is, will you just watch, or will you allow yourself to explore? If there is no center in the universe, why do we insist on looking for one within ourselves? Maybe the answer is to live each step as part of an infinite journey. And if the unknown is not a threat, but an invitation, what would you do differently today? What risks would you stop avoiding? What dreams would you stop postponing? What questions would you dare to ask? Space shows us that limits are often nothing more than illusions of perception. So now I ask you, what will your expansion be from this moment on? Will you wait for ready-made answers, or will you create your own? Leave your reflection in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. Share this video with someone who needs a new way of looking at life. And don't forget subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to continue the journey.